Hello and welcome to today's Hellraiser blog. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's Hellraiser blog, please hit the subscribe button. We love growing the Hellraiser Boxing YouTube family. Little bit weary today because last night I promoted my 100th professional boxing show. It was a black tie boxing dinner at the Millennium Hotel in South Kensington. And highlight of the night for me was Dylan Draper, boxer from Braintree in Essex. I've managed him from the start of his career. Dylan's a journeyman. He goes around the country fighting all the new pros and prospects. And he's lost his first, I think, 23 fights in a row. Last night he got a win. Congratulations, Dylan. Great performance last night. And you've made it in boxing, son. You've just got mentioned in the Hellraiser blog. Good stuff, Dylan. Well done. Good luck with your fight next week as well, which I won't see. Next week, slightly frustrating. I've got a Commonwealth title fight in Philip Bowes, who will be fighting Benson Nyila from Tanzania. That would be a very good fight. Two guys with a very good record, and they're both having the biggest fight of their career by a mile when they face each other. And the winner will walk away with the Commonwealth title. So that's a big night for me. On the same night, and this is, like I say, it's a little bit annoying for me because you've got on Sky Sports, and the fight I'm going to cover, in fact, we already covered the Philip Bowes fight last week or the week before, Ted Cheeseman against Sergio Garcia. I mean, I really like Ted Cheeseman. I remember him all the way from the amateurs. Last time I saw him boxing the amateurs, he actually got beat in the ABAs. It was in the London final against a gentleman from Westland, from the All Stars gym, I think he was, Kelvin Fawaz, who was a very good amateur. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him since then. I've not really heard too much about him. But for me, I'm a fan of Cheeseman. His father actually was at my show last night. Right, so Ted Cheeseman, I'm a fan of him. I think Ted Cheeseman actually is a much cleverer fighter. I think because he is an all-action fighter, he gets stuck in. He's a pressure fighter. He suffocates his opponents. He comes in, cuts off the ring, and does not give them 1 second to breathe. But because of that, I think to a lazy observer, it looks like he's just a guy who trundles forwards, throws loads of, hard punches, doesn't stop, and is too much sort of a work rate for people to keep up with. That's not true. That's not what I mean. If you study him, he is a very intelligent pressure fighter. He's got very quick feet when he needs to cut the ring off. He does not give his opponents 1 second to recuperate, and I think that's actually very important in this fight for him. He needs to be quick on his feet. Sergio Garcia, I've seen him box a couple of times. Sergio Garcia, he's like quite stiff. And I think that's going to suit Cheeseman because he stands his ground. Cheeseman won the British title against one of my boxers, Asinia Byfield, who I was managing at the time. And Byfield sort of tried to hold his ground early in the fight, in the first round and a little bit in the second. But I think very quickly Byfield realised, I can't stand with this guy. He's not going to work if he stands in front of him. And Sergio Garcia will stand in front of Cheeseman more. I mean, Byfield's a much more mobile fighter than Garcia. So Garcia, I actually think it made sense to stand the ground because I think what the problem was with Byfield is he stood his ground a little bit and then thought he could sort of trade, and it looked to me like he thought he could overpower or he could outpunch Cheeseman inside or outwork him, which I never felt that. I mean, that was... I can't imagine why that would be a tactic that he would take, but that's what it looked like to me. What I think I think standing ground against a crouching pressure fighter makes sense if you plant your feet and you actually get the leverage in your punches to make them count, because then the person that's pressuring you all the time actually has to give you a breather, or they're going to get another punch the same as what they just got. And it doesn't matter if you hit them in the head, in the shoulder, in the chest. You just got to hit them somewhere so that it registers with him, wow, this guy can punch. I can't afford to stand in front of him. Byfield didn't do that. I think Garcia will. And I think that will make a big difference. But Garcia is far less mobile. He's slow on his feet. he will get walked to the ropes by Cheeseman, and when he does, I don't think that Garcia has got the mobility and the defensive capabilities to actually manoeuvre himself out of that situation. And I think the big problem that he's going to have is at some point he's going to have to stand and fight with Cheeseman. And because he's slow on his feet, I can't see how because against, like, he won the title, and it's actually very interesting. He won the title against a Frenchman called Maxime Beausire. And Beausire is like a much worse version of Cheeseman. But Beausire still managed to come in close many times through the fight. He got far too close for my liking. If I was looking after Sergio Garcia, I would be, look, you can't let this guy come close. Beausire is actually quite slow on his feet, quite ponderous compared to Cheeseman, certainly. And Beausire still managed to get in close, stay in close, and land punches. For that reason, I strongly am leaning to Ted Cheeseman in this fight. Whether Cheeseman will stop him, I'm not sure, because for me, Cheeseman isn't a 10 out of 10 puncher. He's a hard puncher, he's a hurtful puncher, but he's not a knockout, a concussive puncher that will knock out good level opponents with one shot. I don't think he's that. I think he's a guy who can grind the opponents down, and I think he basically did that like against Byfield. His tactic can be very similar for this fight, to just get his feet in close, get his head on as close to chest, and keep that lateral movement. So the straight shots that come, and Garcia, he does have an uppercut. He does use the uppercut. It's quite a good uppercut, but he's predominantly straight punches coming down the middle like this. So Cheeseman needs to move his head side to side. So there's less chance of the straight punches being able to, if you can follow that, being able to connect with him. And when the straight punches miss, and he's in close, he needs to come in. For me, I'd like to see him go at the body first, because Cheeseman is a very, very hurtful body puncher. I've seen him all the way from the amateurs. I remember he got beat in the amateurs against Kelvin Fawaz in the London finals in Croydon, in Fairfield Hall. And already there, I thought the pros is going to suit this guy. He lost the fight because he fought like a pro style against a guy who fought with a lot of mobility. Again, the thing that I liked about Kelvin Fawaz there was he did stand his ground. He did enough to slow Cheeseman down, which Byfield didn't when he fought him. This fight here, I think Garcia, he's a hurtful puncher, he's a stiff-armed puncher, and those punches he needs to land, whether it's on the head, or even if he hits like a shoulder. That's because you get hit in the shoulder, all right, it might not knock you out, but it registers, and it's the sort of thing then that might slow down Cheeseman a little bit. If Cheeseman's able to dodge and come inside and close the distance down and pin Garcia onto the ropes, this will not be pretty for Spanish viewers. This will be, it will be a bloodbath, because Cheeseman will annihilate him. And you've got to understand as well, the Spanish fighter Garcia, he's fought almost all his fights at home. It's very intimidating going to Spain to fight, because they move the seats very close to the ring. They encourage the crowd. They almost like cheerlead them into this very intimidating. We saw Bradley Skeet go over and get knocked out, and they're wearing like bandanas and going like this at him as he walked, and it seemed to rattle him a lot. And this is an advantage to Spanish fighters, and it's not an advantage that is going to affect this fight, because the fight's in London. It's a very good fight, I think. And listen, I'm going to go for Cheeseman on points. Wouldn't be surprised if he stopped him, but I'm going to go for Cheeseman on points, because I think that he will easily win. He will win more than 7 rounds, and that's all he needs to do to win the fight, especially at home where the crowd will be in his favour. And I think it's a good fight to make, because Garcia is unbeaten. He's a reigning European champion, and it will torpedo Cheeseman up the ratings. So I think whoever the matchmaker was at Matchroom who made this fight, whether it was Paul Eddy or if it was Eddie himself that made it, I think good piece of matchmaking. I agree. And I'm going for Cheeseman on points. I like Cheeseman. I want to see him progress. Let's do it, Ted. the big cheese. Guys, if you enjoyed the blog, please hit the subscribe, and I'll see you next week.